Hey guys! Today I want to talk about 10 JRPGs that I was completely certain I will hate, but for one reason or another, I ended up loving! So let's begin! Number 10, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. Before playing this remaster, I used to have a big love-hate relationship with the PS2 original. As you may already know, I never got past Matador. He beat the crap out of me so many times that I rage quit on the game for many years. I hated it because I really wanted to beat it. I had enjoyed it so much, but hard as I tried with grinding and demon fusion and all, I just never killed that skeleton prick. It wasn't until I got my hands on this remaster, but I waited a long time to get it until it was dirt cheap because I believed that Matador will still get me and therefore I will hate the stupid game again. Thankfully, that didn't happen this time around. I got myself the Merciful Mode DLC and used it to grind, reducing the frustrating time to get to a decent level and decent demons. Still, beating Matador or actually any other boss in this game was a big deal to me, so for every one of them I changed back to normal difficulty. Matador was still a huge challenge this second time around, but I fared better and finally defeated him. I did the same until I beat the damn game. So now I'm a huge fan of this tough mofo like many of you out there. Number 9, Ever Oasis. This game looks dumb, silly, colorful, etc. Not usually my type of game. Still, I've played some of those and have enjoyed them greatly. Still, I thought I'd hate this game when I learned its gameplay mechanics. Basically a town simulator where you get residents, some of them being resellers, you have to restock constantly, barely any character development, repetitive quests, and the like. I'm not lying when I say I forced myself to play the game because I had paid money for it. So after about an hour and a half of gameplay, I hated it, ditched it, and sold it. Not too long after that, I got it back as a gift from a fan. Okay, so I gave it a second chance, this time with an open mind. It was developed as a spiritual successor of the Mana series, considering it was kinda dead back then. The action and controls during combat weren't stellar, but I got used to them. Restocking resellers eventually got fun. Recruiting characters a la Suikoden sat well with me this time around. I found that I could focus on the main story and ignore most side quests, but by now the game was so addicting that I ended up doing almost all of them! Damn, I can't believe I ended up greatly enjoying this little action RPG so much until the very end. I wonder if we can get this on Switch one day. Number 8, Atelier Rona. Yeah. I was a fan of the Atelier games because of Iris 1 and 2 on the PS2. I knew nothing else about the series, didn't know there were other sagas before and after those two, didn't know that they weren't even connected, didn't know the gameplay and storytelling was very different from them. When I got my PS3, I found out about the Arland trilogy, but when I saw footage of it, both gameplay and story, I grew anxious and worried. They looked beyond silly, ridiculous, and girly, so naturally I thought I would hate them. To be honest, I don't remember how I got Rorona, probably because I saw it for cheap somewhere in the marketplace, met with the seller, and bought it to resell it. Still, I was fond of Atelier Iris 1 and 2, so I decided to try Rorona out, just to confirm that it will be a piece of shit. I'm glad I spent about 3 hours non-stop fascinated by it. Yes, story and characters and whatnot was still silly, unlike the ones in the Iris games, but the gameplay mechanics were so addicting that I just couldn't stop playing it. Today, I stand a firm fan of the series despite being more of a guilty pleasure than anything, and it's all thanks to stupid Rorona. Number 7, Sword Art Online Last Recollection. I'm not a fan of this series. Couldn't care less about the anime either. I had played some of the games before and honestly I didn't become a fan. So when I got into this one I was convinced I would hate it. I even streamed it just so I could make fun of it. Well, to my surprise, the game was really damn good. I thought for sure it would be your average short art online garbage with generic story and fan service, but nope, it was a badass action RPG with great controls and battle system. Even the story, despite its never-ending cliches, managed somehow to catch my interest. Of course, you need to familiarize yourself a bit with the series to understand who these characters are and where they come from. No matter the case, the important thing is to enjoy the gameplay mechanics this game has to offer. It plays in a bit of a traditional style where you go from point A to point B, but with a bunch of areas, ruins or dungeons in between. Most of them have puzzles to solve, making you go back and forth, but you can have up to 4 active party members in battle, being able to switch to them after a cooldown. Like I said, controls and combat were awesome here, and the boss battles were simply epic! It's a really solid game that I honestly thought I'd hate. Number 6. Digimon Survive. Well, I'm not a fan of Pokemon, Digimon, or whatever other monster collecting games out there. So imagine when a fan sent this to me. I was like, sure, thanks man, I appreciate it, I guess. Naturally, I just shelved the game. So I put it on after a long time when guilt took over me for not trying out a gift. I mean, that was the least I could do, right? It looked to be a grid-based strategy RPG, which was unusual for a game of this kind, so I thought at least I would try to enjoy that part. So I put it on, and not long did I see myself immersed in a dark story with a really eerie atmosphere, incredibly chilly but also nostalgic and beautiful music, and narrative that I definitely wasn't expecting out of a damn Digimon game. I noticed it was half a visual novel and thought that I would be bored to pieces, but you do make decisions quite often and interact with menus, investigations, and a bonding system. I thought that was cool. Then I got to experience the isometric point of view of combat, its battle mechanics, and its weird SMT influence. Yeah, you can talk to other Digimon to negotiate and recruit them. So in the end, this was a dark game with SMT influences and tactics combat, huh? Of course I freaking loved it. No, I did not become a fan of the series, just of this game. Number 5. Persona 5 Tactica. Mario plus Rabbids never interested me. I did play it at a friend's house for a bit and said, nope, not for me. So then Atlus made yet another Persona 5 spin-off influenced by that other game. Me not being a fan and kinda tired of Persona 5 spin-offs, I ignored it. It looked cool in the trailers, but it's Persona 5, it always looks cool. Regardless, I moved on until, yeah, you guessed it, the same fan that sent me Digimon Survive now sent this one to me. Again, I was grateful, but I honestly put it on my shelf and forgot about it. Until I came to a moment where I had nothing else to play, so I said, what the hell? Put it on, got myself a surprisingly cool soundtrack not composed by Shoji Meguro, but by Toshiki Konishi. Then the game took me by the hand and taught me everything I needed to know about the gameplay mechanics. All the other usual Persona shenanigans were there, like the fusion system, so it made things simple without overcomplicating things, and besides, the story was still intriguing and interesting. I thought for sure it would be dumb as hell, especially because of the chibi art style. Well, it wasn't. The battle mechanics got me over with addicting pacing. In the end, I surprisingly enjoyed this game and finished it without any issues whatsoever. Number 4. Vanguard Bandits. Shocking, I know, considering I'm a die-hard fan of this game and you know that. Here's my story though. Before games like this, I never liked mechs, had zero interest in big, giant robots or knights fighting it out. Never a fan of Gundam, Robotech, or friggin' Transformers. I still ain't. But it is thanks to games like Vanguard Bandits that I've built a whole new appreciation for them. I was making a PS1 Hidden Gems video back in 2017, and when I saw this one I thought I will hate it, so I didn't even bother playing it, and of course I didn't include it. I remember some people asking why I had included Vandal Hearts and not this one. So that made me more curious, so I tried it out, but I couldn't get into it. It wasn't until I planned a part 2 of the same video when I noticed I will have to force myself to play some of them, to consider them for the list, you know? That was when I finally went back to this incredible game. 2 hours after that, I noticed I had been missing out on a fantastic story, great cast, challenging gameplay, different routes and endings, overall a game full of personality. To date, I still regret I didn't include it in part 1 of my PS1 Hidden JRPG Gems video. Number 3, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I think you already know that I was never a fan of the original version on the Nintendo Wii. I never hated it though, so it's not like I thought I would hate the Definitive Edition when it came out, but it needed to be in this video because I never thought I would become such a big fan of the series. I swear I got this version in like 2020, streamed the first couple of hours and quit. It took me over a year to convince myself to go back to it despite thinking that I will dislike it again. I never liked the original because the battle system was confusing and getting certain combos right that were mandatory for some bosses frustrated me, man. This version didn't make things easier though, but I did feel it had been a bit rebalanced, and I don't know, for some reason I really put my mind into learning how the combat worked until I got it. So from there, it was nothing but awesomeness, and finally I got to experience the incredible world and narrative people had been praising for years. So yeah, it was thanks to this Definitive Edition that I became a fan. But there's another game in this series I thought for sure that I will passionately hate. And that is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Also known as Waiu Chronicles 2, I thought I'd hate this controversial and divisive RPG. I enjoy fanservice like most of you, don't lie, you do, but in this game it felt completely out of place, and in my opinion, the humor hurt what could have been an extremely well-written story. Torna, its prequel, got everything right, fanservice included, but the incredible amount of forced side quests ruined it for me, so I thought this game would be the same. Anyway, so I haven't changed my mind on the humor and stuff. Great fan service, but the comedy and the humor, like I said, are just too overly present, and that's what mainly prevented me from taking it seriously. So as a result, I streamed the first couple of hours and then after that completely abandoned it. Years later, I decided that I needed to give it one last chance. So I did, and tolerated the comedic stupidity of it until, well, I kinda started liking it a bit more. I still think Rex is a very lame protagonist though. In any case, it's everything else I appreciated way more this time. Despite being a labyrinthous disaster, not knowing how to get to certain places and getting lost most of the time, I greatly enjoyed the battle mechanics, the incredible soundtrack, the quality of life features, yes, some of the story, and the graphics, of course. I mean the graphics, of course. Number 1. Valkyria Chronicles. I don't remember ever telling the story on how I became a huge fan of this game and the series, and you'll be surprised to know that before that I was convinced, utterly convinced, I will freaking hate it. So this game came out and it was a sleeper hit back then. A lot of people, including me, were on the fence from buying it. It was just so unique and different and weird that naturally we were doubtful. The trailers and gameplay I had watched made it look like this third-person shooter game, and I've never been a fan of those, like Call of Duty RPG or something. A friend of mine even told me that he couldn't believe Sega was doing something as generic and stupid as this, so I convinced myself that this crap just wasn't for me. But eventually other people started praising it. Every month, I'd find more and more gamers singing nothing but praises about it. 2 friends strongly recommended it to me and swore that I wouldn't regret it. So one day I found a post online with a guy selling this for like $20, and trust me, back then, I would never pay that much for a game I thought I'd hate. But for whatever reason, I reached out, agreed on a meeting place that was far away, and there was only one slow-ass boss that could take me there. You have no idea how many times I thought of getting down on the next stop, but I don't know, man, I just kept going. So I met with the guy, failed to haggle, bought the game against my better judgment, went home with a headache, already regretting what I had done. But then I got home, put it on my PS3, played it. You know the freaking rest. Masterpiece.